Hi guys, I built a small React website where it extracts GitHub commits from your GitHub repository. So recently I was searching for a platform from where I can get my GitHub commits so that I can get that commits and feed it to some GPTs and get a quick summary of my project, what I've done in past months, so that I can easily get the documentation of that project or some content to post. So I searched for the platform and I never got one. So I quickly made a GitHub extractor, commit extractor. So by default, it gets my repository commits. So to use it, you just need to add your username, GitHub username, and your repository. So let's take one repository from my GitHub, that is web application, and it will get your commits. So if you want, you can also use this, and I build it using React. So I am recently learning React, so that's why I thought let's build it in React. And it also gets all your GitHub. So GitHub API has limit to fetch only 100 data per fetch request. So it gives only 100. So if you go to next page, it will get your next 100 or whatever is left. So you can use this pagination as well. So let me show you the code. So it is very simple code. I think 200 line of codes. And if you see, there is nothing simple. Uh, the heading, the form with two input fields, and on submit this function gets triggered. I'll explain the function. Let's see the label. This is the label, this is the input form, and the input values are handled by this function. I'll show what it is. So let's discuss what it is. So I like to handle my input values using this hook use form. So it gets all your data into register, and then after submitting you can handle it using handle submit. So I'll show you. So whatever input value is getting, it is just storing it in the register and with a name. So that's how it works. So this is the username, this is the input field, this is the repository label, and the repository input field. Similarly, it is getting in the registry, and here is a button, okay, or which is or type submit. So whenever we click the button, it triggers the on submit event, and it triggers the use form hook, and it sends all the data whatever it gathered from the form and sends it to this function which is after submit. And if you see after submit, this is the function which triggers this statement. I'll explain. Let's go through. Okay, so the form ends here. Next, here comes the error and the loading. If there is an error, it shows this message with error. So it makes a paragraph tag and displays the error. Similarly, the loading, if the content is loading, it shows this loading message. So this method of triggering and tag is called short circuiting, I guess. So let's discuss how we are getting this error or loading. So if you see, we have some states over here, data set which holds the data which we get after fetching the API, the error which we get, the loading state, true or false we get, and the current page, and username, repository, and a registry from the form. So let's see further. So next, again we did the short circuiting. So this is data set, and this if not error. If there is no error, then only it will display the data, else it will display the error. So how the data set is coming? So let's see. So whenever we trigger this button, we have seen that this on submit, it triggers this function after submit. So what does after submit does? It sets the current page value to 1. Why? Because previously if anyone has fetched some data and went to some other page, so it stays on that page, so we need to neutralize it by setting it to 1 because the default value is 1, and then after defaulting it to 1, it gets the username and repository from that from the input field, and it sets it to the username state and repository state. So it has that new username and repository state. So here is the use effect, which triggers on these three conditions whenever the page changes, whenever the username changes, or whenever the repository changes. So we change repository, a username, or a page, which we change all the three, so it gets triggered. And when it triggers, it has it is you can see it is self-calling function, so it calls itself. There is a try catch block. So first, whenever this is triggered, the set loading is set to true, so that the loading message is being shown while it is fetching. So it is fetching the commits from this repository per 100 per page. It gets 100 fetches. So username gets here, repository gets here, and the current page is 1. So first page will get 100 and next will get more. I'll show how we are iterating over the pages. So next we have, so it fetches and it stores in the repository. If there is some error, it goes here, because if response.ok means it sends 200 status. So if it's not 200 status, that means the fetching is not been successful. So it triggers this block and it gets the error JSON. Why I'm getting this in JSON? Because I needed a particular message of that error. So it is easy to get that error by doing this dot message. So I stored the error in JSON, and then it stores in error, and then it throws a new error with appending that error message. It says API error and then that message. So it just throws the error so that catch block can get that. So it throws, catch block gets it, and the set error sets that error message into the state so that we can print it. So it prints, and the set loading is set to false, so that it is no more loading. So yes, this was a condition if we get some error while fetching. So after that, on OK, if it is successfully fetched, then the data JSON is stored in this variable, and then we set the data object to set data set. So it is set, and error is null. We do null because previously if the fetch was not successful, the set error will be there, always be there. So the state will never change. So we have to do null so that it we can print the data which we have. Because if you see, there was a condition, if there will be an error, the set will not be print. So we have to do it false. We did it null and the loading state to false because already we have fetched the data. So it is done. This is the function, and use effect. You all know that whenever the page reloads, it triggers by itself. Okay, so it triggers by default. We have my username and our repository. Okay, so whenever the page reloads, it fetches this two, and the default page is 1. So it fetches my data on reload, and afterwards whatever data you put, username or repository, it fetches accordingly. Okay. So the data set, if there is some data set and there is no error, then it goes into this div. So here the dataset dot data dot map, we map the array and we get the commits. We fix that index to key. So this is the div which starts, and this is the styling. I used tailwind. Next, this is the card where we are printing our commits. So this shows the numbers, the number of commits 1, 2, 3, 4. So the current it prints according to the page. So next page prints after 100. So the current page is 1, and into 100 is 100. 100 minus 100 is 0. Plus index is 0. 0 plus 1 and 1, and it goes on. So next page, if we see, it is 2. So 2 into 100 is 200, and 200 minus 100 is 100, and then we print the numbers. So 100, and afterwards it prints it. So 101, 102, 103 like that. So this is the div tag which holds the message. So here it is, the stylings, and this is commit message, that data. We get the data from each data, which iterate each data using map, and we print it. Okay, so we print it, and this is the pagination. So if you see, I've wrapped it into a tag, into a div tag, and here also we have used an if else condition using ternary operator. So current page, if it is page 1, it does not show previous page, because in page 1 where you will go previously, there is nothing in previous page. So it hides whenever it is page 1. Similarly, we have next page, there is a condition. If the data set is more than 100, so then only it shows next page, which means the first page contains 100 data, and if there are more than 100 data, it shows the next page so that it can go to next page and print the rest of the data. And how it is working, it is simple. On click event, it calls, it stores in current page, that set current page state. We have a state current page where it sets the page number, it gets previous page, and it operate -1 to it so that it can go to previous page. So similarly, it has the previous page value, and then it operates or adds +1 to it, so it goes to the next page. So this is the simple project which I built. If you want, you can also use this project, and don't forget to star this repository if you want. So thank you so much.